earlier in my spiritual journey, I was trying to be very positive, and I was putting a lot of effort into being very positive, into only having positive thoughts and trying to be happy and joyful all the time. And when a relative or a friend would share a really negative story or was really complaining and just toxic negativity, I would respond with just anger, and I would get so mad, and I would just amplify any stress that someone was putting towards me. And this obviously makes every situation worse, and I was not just a mirror, I was a magnifying glass for the negativity, because I wasn't just mad that someone would dump this negativity. I was mad that other people weren't putting as much effort towards positivity as I was. And what I realized is that was really more of a delusion. That was trying to create a facade. I was denying reality, and I was creating this fairy tale fantasy picture of a perfect world. And when someone would shatter that, I would get angry and I would get stressed. And so what I realized is that I need to let that shatter if that's what's going to happen, because any illusion will shatter, but reality can never shatter. And so once I started to be more honest with myself about the negativity, not just around me, but within me, that was the moment that a real change took place within me. That was the moment that my chronic back pain went away, because that chronic back pain that I had was stuffed down negativity that I was hiding from myself. And once I became open and accepting and facing that fear of the negativity in the world and within me, that was the moment that I could actually conquer it, because I could face it. And so when we have that stress within us, it is important to take a hard look, not at the other person, not to blame them, but to look within us at why is it triggering stress within us? What is within us that is getting triggered? And once we start to make peace with that, we can reach such a deeper level of peace that is truly lasting and unshakable, because it is based in reality. It is firmly rooted in the here and now. And like a tree that is firmly rooted, no amount of wind can knock it over. We live in a world of universal stress. We are all stressed all the time because there is so much in our lives that does not align with our human nature. Being inside, going to jobs, having our livelihoods threatened all the time. And so it's inevitable that we will come across people who are stressed, and their stress stresses us out. And we tend to think that thoughts don't matter, that they're the unspoken words and they just disappear into the ether. But every thought has an effect, and it tends to lead to words eventually. It slips out what we're really feeling in some way, and it changes our actions, and it leads to habits. And so we really need to be careful about watching our thoughts, and we need to make sure that we're not giving them extra energy, that we are correcting incorrect thinking. And one of the things that happens when a friend is dumping their stress onto us is to notice that we are not taking on their stress. We are creating stress within ourselves. We always have this choice where we either resist something mentally, which creates stress, or we make peace with what's happening. And so there is not anything that we need to resist. And it doesn't mean that we're not empathetic if we don't become stressed and disheartened because of someone's own difficult times. In fact, quite the opposite. When we are truly empathetic, we know how to show up for people. And that is not to get sucked into a stress storm. It is to be that peaceful calm for others. This isn't just how we release our own stress. It's how we help others release their stress. So often I see in relationships, someone will be stressed. Someone else will be there for them, but then they will get stressed. And then that second person's stress, after the first person feels better, becomes that first person's stress again. Because now that first person is trying to not take on the stress that they just gave to someone else. And so we kind of go in a game of tennis where we're just passing the ball of stress back and forth between each other. And so it is essential that we do three things. Number one, we don't expect stress-free friends and family. If we do, we will always be stressed and disappointed and miserable. The second thing we need to do is to pay extra close attention to how we are mentally responding to these stressful stories. To see, am I criticizing in my mind, just in private, just judging and complaining, which is going to be a stressful experience? Or am I grateful that someone can confide in me? Am I grateful to have the opportunity to help someone? And am I staying aware of my own internal state and how it is affecting myself and others? And the third thing we all have a right to do, which is to really examine if we are allowing someone else to use us as a dumping ground, as a punching bag, as a stress unloader, as an unpaid therapist. And of course, we all want to be there for our friends. We all need to be there for our friends. But sometimes our friends and family are not sharing because they actually want to feel better, because they actually want to solve a situation, and there is no purpose or intention behind the venting and the dumping. And this can be a form of abuse, and we need to be very careful about how much we are putting ourselves in a vulnerable position to be used in that way. Abuse doesn't just come in the form of insults and criticism. It can be abusing our time, abusing our empathy and sympathy, our kindness, our generosity of time and energy. And so at the end of the day, we do need to protect our energy. We do want to make sure we're taking care of ourselves and not receiving more stress than we're able to. And so while we do the work of step 1 and 2, we have to know where we are and what we are having the capacity to hold someone else's stress. Sometimes we have an enormous capacity. We are energized by the opportunity to help someone else who is really struggling. And sometimes we are just learning, and we're at the very early stages, we're growing, and we have just unloaded our own stress, and it is a shaky, stress-free mental state we have created, and we are not able to take so much negativity. And that is okay. We are all growing and learning together. And just as we wouldn't expect anyone else to always receive our negativity, and we wouldn't even want them to, so too, when someone is treating us this way, it's the best for both parties to take a step back and to replenish instead of be drained to the point of depletion. Secondhand stress is very real, and it is in some ways, just like secondhand smoking, more deadly than the first person who is stressed. Because sometimes the person who is stressed, that may be their natural way of being. They may just genuinely be more immune to the stress, whereas we may be more sensitive. So we do need to be careful, especially the extra empathetic people out there who feel that they are always absorbing the energy of others. And so we need to know when to help and when to hold back. And both are nothing to feel guilty about, because everyone has their limits. And knowing those limits is not a sign of selfishness or arrogance or egotism. It is just knowing what you need to help others in the best way you can. When you are around a very stressful person and they are chaotic and frenzied, it's important to mentally take a step back, to stop listening to the words so much and start to pay attention to the energy. And instead of trying to solve a problem, instead of trying to understand this story, which they need to be able to let go of themselves, just pay attention to your energy and the other person's energy, and be that calming energy for the both of you. So slow your breath, slow your heartbeat, which you can't do consciously, but the more you simply pay attention to yourself, you naturally become calm, and your heart rate naturally starts to slow. Your blood pressure comes down as you take those deep breaths, as you clear your mind by focusing on the body. Often, people who are very stressed, it's their frenzied, fast-paced, doom and gloom mindset. And there's not necessarily words that will help them. And it is simply a calm presence that is listening. And we can all be that. And this is why it's not selfish to not receive someone's energy. In fact, it is the most selfless thing we can do when our calm presence is what is really needed. Whenever you are listening to someone who's very stressed and you are feeling yourself getting stressed, take a minute to just feel your body, to feel your whole body. Feel it from the tip of your head to the tip of your toes. Feel the weight of your body on the couch or cushion or chair or floor or bed. And take your focus while you are listening to this person. And just start right here and move your focus in a line down here, and just keep moving like there is a grid over your whole body. And you just go line by line about every half inch or inch, and just from top down. You can go from the tip of your head to your neck, and then you can go from your neck to your waist, and you just keep going vertically. And as you feel this area, you come down a little and you feel that area, and then you just make sure you are feeling every inch on that line. And sometimes you might not be able to sense any sensations at a particular point, and just keep your focus at that point until you feel some sensation, a tingling, a pressure, the breeze, a piece of cloth, whatever true, real sensation is there. And just keep going. You'll do head to neck, neck to waist, waist to toes, and you just keep going in a straight line down and then slightly over, about 1 inch over. And what this does is it connects the mind and body, which are so often disconnected. We're so unaware of what's going on in our body. And wherever we put our focus, there is sensation, and we can feel that area of the body. We can feel its aliveness. We can feel the nerve endings sending signals to our brain. And it gets our focal point of awareness, which tends to be in our eyes. That is the most prominent place we sense our conscious awareness emanating from. But we can move that consciousness throughout our body, which takes us out of our head, and that thinking stops. And what we can do is, over time, start to sense little subtleties of wherever we're holding on to tension, wherever that stress is being stored in our body. And it becomes much easier to let that go and to bring a deep sense of peace and relaxation to our whole body, which is really where stress is stored. And stress is just another name for tension, and tension is that tightness and stiffness in the body, and it stems from our thoughts. So when we take our consciousness out of the thinking mind and we bring it to the feeling, we are able to experience any situation in our lives, no matter how undesirable it is, stress-free, peaceful, and calm. Stress is not caused by difficult, challenging moments. It is caused by our resistance to those moments. It is caused by us fighting with those moments. When we resist we think negative. If my car breaks down and I think to myself, oh good, I'm sure there is a mechanic nearby, or thank God I have AAA, or how blessed that I have a jumper cable in my trunk, or thank goodness I have 2 working arms to change a tire. Whatever our situation, we can find something to be grateful for, to be positive about. Thank God that my tire went flat and my engine did not fall out of the car. There is always a positive story, and there is the negative story. The negative story is the typical story. Oh man, I'm going to be late. Oh no, this is a disaster. Ugh, this ruins my day. All of these are equally true as the positive stories, but one resists and one embraces and accepts. And we just have to make a habit of telling that positive story, and life will be beautiful and we will have no stress. This is what some people naturally do. I tend to think of surfers. They seem to always be able to go with the flow, to have just joy for life, and where stress just washes off of them. It does not stick. And we can all have that sunny disposition and positive mindset. It just takes creating new mental habits. And the way we create new mental habits is visualization, visualizing how we wish to be in stressful situations, how we wish to face our fears, how we hope to be in those challenging times. And we do that with affirmations, which are simply positive thoughts that we repeat to ourselves. And we simply notice those negative thoughts. We write them down, and we write down what we want to think instead. And then we say those to ourselves 100 times a day until they seep into our subconscious. And we also do this by practicing gratitudes. And we can do this again in the morning, in the evening, throughout the day, where we just remind ourselves of not only what we are grateful for, but we even think to ourselves until we genuinely feel gratitude for the amazing blessings that are in all of our lives. Even if we are homeless, the sun shines on us, and there is always something to be grateful for. There will always be people in this world who are kind-hearted and good, and there is no limit, from the beautiful trees to the birds flying overhead. There is just an abundance of gratitude that we just miss when we get stuck in these mental habits of focusing on negativity and darkness. So give yourself permission to change those mental habits, to become an entirely different person. No one will judge you for becoming happy. And if they do, that's okay, because you're happy, and that's all that matters.